For 6 years, Kemi loved Tunde with all her heart, but Tunde had one condition before he would ever marry any woman. She had to be a virgin. So he left the woman who loved him and married a virgin instead. But 3 years later, that decision almost destroyed his life.
Every city in the world has a man like Tunde Adeyemi. Lagos just has more of them. The kind of man that God looked at when he was done and said, "This one came out well. Good face. Good height." The kind of smile that arrives before he does and stays after he leaves. Women adjusted their wrappers when he walked past, not because they wanted anything, just out of instinct. Pure, involuntary, deeply inconvenient instinct. His name was Tunde Adeyemi, 32 years old, lived in Surulere, worked in logistics, paid his rent on time.
Tunde, you and Kemi have dated for 6 years. When will you marry her? My brother will marry, but I will marry a virgin. Virgin in Lagos? Brother, are you looking for miracle? I am a man of standards. Oh, really? What standards? The best food, the best company. All right, Tunde.
You will regret this thing you are doing to Kemi.
My wife must be pure.
Brother, you are not pure yourself.
Lagos needed both of them. It started the way many things in Lagos start, at somebody else's party, eating somebody else's food, meeting somebody who was definitely going to change your life. Her name was Kemi Okonkwo, 25 years old, beautiful in the way that had nothing to do with effort. She just was. Sharp eyes that saw things. She was laughing at something her friend had said when Tunde spotted her across the room. He picked up 2 cups of juice, walked over, and
I saw you from across the room and decided I didn't want to drink alone.
Is it? Omo? No. You always make everything feel easy.
That's because you worry too
they
much.
feel like falling in love. Year 1 was wonderful. Year 2 was warm. By year 3, Kemi had started dropping hints about marriage, the way someone drops breadcrumbs carefully, hopefully, leaving a trail she prayed he would follow. By year 4, the hint.
Kemi, that man is a Yoruba demon with PhD. He is wasting your time like free Wi-Fi. But he says he loves me. Love without marriage after 6 years is Netflix subscription.
You don't always listen to me.
That's not true.
It is, but I still stay.
And I'm glad you do.
Kemi, I can't take this.
You're not taking it. We're using it.
What if I don't make it?
Then we'll figure it out. But you will. Promise me something.
What?
Don't ever hurt me.
I won't.
Where is this going, Tunde?
I want to be sure.
Sure of what? You've known me for 6 years.
Yeah, it's not like that.
Then what is it like, Tunde?
What else do you need to know? My blood type? My great-grandmother's maiden name?
It's not like that.
Then what is it like, Tunde? Use your whole chest and tell me.
I want to marry a virgin.
Get out of my house!
Tunde went to Femi's house that night. He sat on Femi's kitchen counter, eating Femi's biscuits, with the energy of a man who did not fully understand why he was in trouble. Femi made tea and said nothing, which was his way of saying everything. Tunde said she overreacted. Femi took a slow, deliberate sip, set the cup down, looked directly at Tunde, and told him, with great love and complete clarity, that he was a complete mumu. He reminded Tunde that Kemi had given him 6 years, 6, that she had turned down other men, good men, men with sense, because she chose Tunde. And Tunde's response to 6 years of devotion was to announce a new requirement in year 6. Then Femi paused, picked up his tea, and said, almost to himself, the irony of you wanting a virgin. You, Tunde, who I have known since secondary school, a small laugh. God is not sleeping. Tunde had no response to this. He ate another biscuit, sadly. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, Tunde, just apologize, fix it, go back, marry Kemi, end of story. And that would have been the right thing, that would have been the wise thing. But here is the problem with men like Tunde Adeyemi. God, in his infinite sense of humor, had decided that this was exactly the moment to put a young woman named Aisha in his path. She appeared on a Sunday. As many complications do. Her name was Aisha Fashola, 24 years old. Third row from the front. Bible held in both hands like something precious. She wore a white blouse and a long yellow skirt. Her eyes were closed. She was singing. Tunde forgot the lyrics to the hymn. This was not remarkable because he had not known the lyrics to begin with. What was remarkable was the expression on his face. Femi, watching from across the church hall with chin-chin in his pocket, saw it immediately. He had seen this face before. It never ended well. Tunde spent the rest of that Sunday collecting information about Aisha Fashola with the precision of a man running a background check. Her name from Brother Seun. Her family background from Sister Ngozi. Her phone number from Pastor Kunle's wife, who gave it to him with a smile that suggested she believed she was doing the Lord's work.
Good evening, this is Tunde from church.
Oh, good evening.
I hope I'm not disturbing you.
No, I just finished cooking.
What did you make?
Egusi soup and pounded yam.
His voice was warm, careful. He turned it on gradually, not all at once. He knew what he was doing. When she told him she had cooked egusi soup and pounded yam, he pressed his hand to his chest like a man who had been struck. She laughed, small, surprised, quickly tucked back in, like she was not sure she had permission to use it. And Tunde smiled at his phone. He knew that laugh was the beginning of everything. And so it began. The end of one story. The start of another. Tears. This week we meet the Fashola family. And things get significantly more complicated. Aisha Fashola had grown up in a home where the word discipline was not a parenting philosophy. It was a lifestyle. Her father, Engineer Fashola, was a man who scheduled his own relaxation. Her mother, Deaconess Fashola, had opinions about hemlines that could fill several volumes. She could determine the moral character of a young woman from the length of her skirt and the firmness of her handshake. Together, they had raised Aisha to be everything a good girl was supposed to be: respectful, quiet, domestically capable, able to cook 7 different soups from memory, and according to every visible piece of evidence, completely and thoroughly committed to her purity. On the morning we meet her, Aisha stands in the family living room in a long, modest dress, waiting for her mother's approval before church. Her mother looks at the neckline. Aisha says it is a turtleneck. Her mother says, Engineer Fashola sits at the breakfast table, reading his newspaper, eating ogi with complete satisfaction. He has no opinions about necklines. He outsourced all domestic opinions to his wife approximately 30 years ago and has found tremendous peace in the arrangement. Now, here is where we must pause and give Tunde Adeyemi some credit. Because watching him court Aisha, this man who had spent 6 years being emotionally unavailable, was something to see. He was patient. He was respectful. He showed up when he said he would. He called when he said he would call. He met her parents on a Saturday afternoon and sat in Engineer Fashola's living room with the correct amount of formality, answered every question without flinching. And he complimented Deaconess Fashola's throw pillows. He genuinely, sincerely complimented her throw pillows. The woman touched one with something approaching joy. She was not expecting this. Nobody was expecting this. Femi watched all of this from a distance, with the expression of a scientist observing a result that does not match the hypothesis. He told Tunde he was doing everything right for the wrong person, that somewhere Kemi was sitting and wondering what she did wrong. While Tunde ironed his church clothes for a woman he had known for 2 months, Tunde did not reply. He was checking his shirt in the mirror, not a single wrinkle. It was on their 5th outing that the conversation happened. The one Tunde had been building toward. A quiet restaurant in Ikeja, low lighting, nice tablecloths. The kind of restaurant Tunde chose when he had a specific intention. He asked if she had ever been in a serious relationship. She said yes. One person in university. It ended. He asked why. She said, steadily and without drama, he wanted things I was not ready for. The things people who are not married should not be doing. Something settled in Tunde's face. Certainty. The clean, uncomplicated feeling of a man who believes he has found exactly what he was looking for. He got into Femi's car afterward and stared forward for 30 seconds without speaking. Femi asked how dinner was. Tunde said he was going to marry her. Femi stared at the road ahead and said, quietly, God does not sleep. He called his mother the next morning. He told her he wanted to get married. She went very quiet. This was significant. Mama Tunde did not go quiet for small matters. She asked about Kemi. He said this was different. She asked different how. He lowered his voice and told her Aisha had kept herself, that she was that kind of woman. The sound of a stove being turned off came through the phone. Tunde knew the sound. It meant his mother was about to say something that required her full attention. She told him, in the voice of a woman who had carried him for 9 months and watched him make questionable decisions for 32 years, that she was not going to fight him. He was a grown man, but God does not sleep. He told her she was the 3rd person to say that. She told him it was true 3 times. The introduction happened on a Saturday in February. The Fashola living room was at its most formal. Engineer Fashola sat in his armchair the way kings sit in thrones. Deaconess Fashola offered zobo to everyone every 4 minutes as a form of emotional regulation. Tunde's uncle Baba Sola spoke on his behalf with the authority of a man who had done this many times and was not nervous about any of it. And then, as if the occasion needed more witnesses, Pastor Kunle appeared in the doorway, uninvited, just passing. He said, With the serene confidence of a man who has never once in his life felt unwelcome anywhere, he was given a seat. He was asked to pray. He prayed for 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Nobody counted. Everybody counted. But when it was over, Engineer Fashola looked across the room at Tunde with the face of a man who has made a decision and will announce it on his own terms, and said, "We accept." The room exhaled. Aisha sat in her blue dress with her hands folded and her eyes bright. She looked, by every measure, like a woman who was exactly where she was supposed to be. Tunde felt the rightness of it, the dangerous kind of certainty.
Tunde,
He called
I've
Kemi
been waiting for
2
your
days
call.
We
later.
need to talk.
what's wrong?
I don't think this is working anymore.
I don't understand. What are you saying?
It's better this way.
Better for who, Tunde? Is there someone else?
I just need something different.
After everything I did for you, my God will punish you. 6 years, and I'm now history. I should at least get a certificate for endurance.
The wedding was beautiful because bad decisions, as I said before, often come dressed in their finest clothes, champagne and sage green, real flowers, jollof rice that made grown people close their eyes when they taste. They cut the cake, and Tunde Adeyemi drove his new wife home in a car decorated with ribbons and noise and the full optimistic energy of a Lagos wedding. He had everything he thought he wanted. The problem with getting everything you think you want is that it has a way of showing you, eventually, the difference between what you wanted and what you actually needed. That lesson was coming. It was coming on a Tuesday afternoon in a restaurant in Victoria Island through a window.
This smells incredible. You always outdo yourself.
Just wait until you taste it.
Almost done.
Marriage agreed with Tunde Adeyemi. At least in the beginning, it did. And to give the man his due, he was, by every observable measure, a wonderful husband. Aisha cooked every day, not the occasional trying to impress cooking, the real kind, daily, consistent. What do you want for dinner cooking? Egusi, okra, afang, banga, all 7 soups, rotated through the week with the discipline of a woman raised in a deaconess's household. Tunde came home to hot meals with the regularity of a man who had forgotten this was not guaranteed. The apartment was always immaculate. Towels folded in thirds, shoes facing the same direction. The remote control returned to its exact spot on the center table, a spot Aisha had clearly decided was its permanent home, and which Tunde had quickly learned to respect. She was a good wife. She was, as far as anyone in that apartment could see, exactly who she appeared to be. And then there was Sandra. Sandra appeared in Aisha's life the way certain people appear gradually and then completely, suddenly everywhere, with no clear origin story. She had been described as a friend from back then, which covered, geographically, quite a wide range of possibilities. Sandra was not, in any recognizable way, Aisha's type of friend. Where Aisha was quiet, Sandra was a sound system with legs. Where Aisha wore long, modest skirts, Sandra wore things that would have given Deaconess Fashola 3 separate medical episodes. She laughed at a volume that physically rearranged objects in the room. When she first came to the apartment, She looked around with enormous approval, told Aisha she had done well. Then, turning to Tunde, told him that Aisha used to date a man who lived in one room, single mattress, single everything. Tunde laughed politely. Beside him, Aisha was doing the smile of a woman attempting to redirect a conversation heading somewhere inconvenient. Tunde filed this information in the back of his mind under things to think about later. He did not think about it later. That was the mistake. Sandra started coming on Tuesdays, which was fine. Then Thursdays, which was technically also fine. But then Tunde started coming home to certain things. An extra glass by the sink, a different perfume in the air, the specific quality of quiet a room has when the people in it left just slightly too quickly. He dismissed it. He was not going to be the suspicious husband. He had always scorned those men. He trusted Aisha. He had married Aisha for reasons. Those reasons were still true, weren't they? Whatever small worried voice had started speaking quietly in the back of Tunde's mind. He silenced it completely when Aisha told him she was pregnant. Because there are some moments that are bigger than doubt, and this
cannot be happening.
What do you mean? This is good news.
Yes, good news.
I'm going to be a father. My family is complete.
This moment of sitting on the floor, surrounded by screws, asking himself where it had all gone wrong, and concluding that the answer was step 7 on a Tuesday night at 11 p.m. He drove to 3 different shops to find a specific brand of pineapple juice that Aisha had decided she needed urgently. 3 shops, 11 p.m., pineapple juice, because that is what you do, because that is love in its most undramatic, inconvenient, completely necessary form. The baby came on a Thursday, a boy. They named him Kolade, and Tunde held him in the hospital corridor, wrapped in a yellow blanket, and cried. Not the dignified kind, the real kind, the surprised by yourself kind. He pressed his forehead to his son's forehead and made promises, the unwitnessed kind, the ones that go into the universe quietly and stay there. Femi stood beside him with one hand on his shoulder and a face that was doing something complex, something that a careful person might have noticed and asked about. But this was not the moment for careful questions. This was the moment for yellow blankets and promises and the particular joy of a man holding something new and believing completely that it is his. Life continued. Meals, work, laughter. Ordinary Tuesday evenings. Kolade grew, got teeth, began to see the world with the round-eyed attention of someone who finds everything astonishing. And then came the afternoon in Victoria Island. Tunde arrived early for a business lunch. He was waiting by the entrance of the restaurant, checking his phone. And then, through the glass, he saw Aisha at a corner table, leaning forward with a man he did not recognize. She was laughing, not the polite, careful laugh she sometimes used at social occasions. The real one, the one that changed her face. Tunde stood outside. For exactly 30 seconds, he counted without meaning to. Then his client arrived. He shook the man's hand. He smiled. He had the business lunch. He said nothing. He drove home afterward with his hands very steady on the wheel. That evening, he asked how her day was. She said fine. She had met a colleague for lunch. He said good. He went to bed at 9 p.m., stared at the ceiling. The ceiling fan turned above him. Steady, 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 and somewhere behind his eyes, the worried voice that he had been silencing for months stopped being a voice and became a question he could no longer avoid. Lagos teaches you things. It teaches them slowly and then all at once. It teaches them in restaurants, through glass, in the expression of a woman laughing with a man who is not her husband. Tunde went to work the next day. He paid his bills. He called nobody. He thought about the restaurant. He thought about Sandra's Tuesdays and Thursdays. He thought about the extra glass by the sink and the perfume that was not Aisha's. And then, on a quiet Monday morning, he called his doctor. He said he wanted to do a paternity test. His doctor was a professional.
Mr. Tunde, there is something you need to understand. I don't understand. What are you saying? The results show that you cannot be the biological father.
Radical movements of a man who has decided that knowing is better than not knowing, even when you already know, even when the result will confirm something you have been refusing to look at directly. The results arrived on a Monday evening. He opened the email, got into his car, and drove. There are certain moments in a person's life when time breaks into two clean pieces, before and after. What happened on this Monday evening with a phone and an email and a car on a Lagos highway was one of those moments. He drove for 3 hours, not going anywhere. Lagos highways at night, the city thinning out, the lights becoming sparse and then gathering again. The road doing what roads do, for people who have nowhere to go but cannot stay still. He pulled over somewhere on the express, turned off the headlights, and in the dark, alone, with the city glowing in the distance, and the night receiving everything without comment, he said it out loud. Kolade is not my son. He heard how it sounded in the air. It sounded wrong. It sounded like something that happened to other people. In stories, he sat there for a very long time, thinking about the hospital corridor, the yellow blankets, the forehead pressed to a small forehead, the promises made in the dark when nobody else was listening. He thought about those promises specifically because Kolade had not done anything wrong. Kolade was 4 months old and had 4 teeth and grabbed Tunde's nose with a force that was frankly unreasonable for someone of his size and weight. None of what was in that email had anything to do with Kolade. He drove home. He walked into the living room. Aisha was on the couch. She was expecting, perhaps shouting. She had organized her responses, built her defenses. What she got instead was Tunde walking in quietly, sitting down across from her, placing the letter on the center table, and beside it, a folded piece of paper with medical letterhead visible at the top. He said nothing. She looked at both papers. She said nothing. They sat in that silence, the apartment they had built together around them. Kolade sleeping in the next room, the sounds of the ordinary Lagos night coming through the windows. He asked her to help him understand. She started to cry, not the performing kind, the real kind. From somewhere deep, she said she was sorry. He said that was not an explanation. She said she knew. The questions came slowly. She answered some, could not answer others. He asked, were you ever who?
So it's true. This child is not mine.
Tunde, please, let me explain.
Explain what? You lied to me. You let me believe that child was mine. Huh?
I was scared. I didn't know what to do.
He called Femi at 6 in the morning. Femi answered on the second ring, which meant he had been awake. Which meant he had been waiting for this call, even if he hadn't known it was coming today. Tunde told him the test had come back. Femi was silent. Tunde said, you already knew. Femi said, I suspected. Tunde asked, how long? Femi said, since the restaurant. He had looked the man up afterward. He was sorry. Tunde said he should have told him. Femi said Tunde had told him not to say anything. Multiple times, Tunde said he had not known what he was telling him not to say. Femi said, I know, I'm sorry. Then silence. Then Tunde said, quietly, I thought she was different. Femi said she was a person. That people were rarely the version of themselves you decided they were before you actually knew them. Tunde said that was philosophically very useful. Thank you. Then he said, Kolade is not my son. Femi said, I know. Then asked, what are you going to do? Tunde was quiet for a long time. He said he didn't know yet, but he needed to talk to Kemi. Now, at this point in the story, some of you will nod. Some of you will say yes. Go. Call her. Fix it. And some of you, the ones who have been paying attention, will understand exactly what Femi understood in that moment. That there are some doors, once closed, that do not open again. That the world does not pause while you are making your mistakes. That Kemi Okonkwo had not been sitting in a waiting room for 3 years. She had been leaving. Femi understood this. He told Tunde where she was anyway, because that is what you do for your friend. You give him the chance to try, even when you already know the answer. Mama Tunde arrived without warning. 3 bags of food, 4 hours from Ibadan. No phone call, just arrival. Because when her child was hurting, she came. There was no version of the situation in which she would not come. She looked at her son's face when he opened the door and told him to sit down, that she was cooking. He tried to say he was fine. She told him he was not fine. She went to the kitchen, and 3 hours later, a pot of gebegeri soup and pounded yam had transformed Femi's bachelor kitchen into something that smelled of Ibadan and everything right. Tunde sat before it like a man returning to something fundamental about himself. He ate. She sat across from him and watched him eat the way mothers watch their children eat when they are worried the watching itself a form of feeding. She asked him to tell her everything. He did. She did not say I told you so. He saw it cost her something not to say it. He loved her for it. When he was done, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said that child, Kolade. He said Kolade was not his. She said she heard him. Then she said, but you held him. You were there when he came into the world. You made promises to him. Kolade did nothing wrong. Whatever you decide about Aisha, and you have the right to decide. Kolade is a separate matter. Tunde said he knew. She said she knew he knew. She went back to her soup. Outside, Lagos continued, loudly, without apology. He kept going to see Kolade twice a week. The arrangement between him and Aisha was awkward in the specific way of two people who have nothing left to perform for each other. But they had arrived at logistics, which is what exhausted people arrive at when the energy for anger has run out. Kolade, for his part, the legal process was not quick. Legal processes in Lagos are not designed to be quick. They are designed to be thorough and expensive and humbling, and they achieve all three objectives with great efficiency. Tunde moved into Femi's spare room. The room was small. The ceiling fan wobbled on every third revolution. The bed was slightly too small for him. He went to work. He paid his bills. He ate the food Femi's housekeeper made. He went to bed early and woke at 5 and ran through streets that were just beginning to wake up, the city still blue and uncertain at that hour, the world not yet fully committed to the day. He called his mother every Sunday. She always asked about Kolade first. He would tell her something, a new tooth, a new sound, the work in progress. She would respond with warmth. Then she would ask how he was. He would say getting there. She would say that was enough for now. And it was enough, what he already threw away. In the year and a half since Tunde Adeyemi had left her apartment with 4 words, I want to marry a virgin, Kemi Okonkwo had done something remarkable. She had continued, not just survived, continued. There is a difference. Survival is white-knuckling through the days, getting from morning to night, putting one foot in front of the other because there is no other option. Continuing is deciding actively every morning that the rest of your life does not belong to someone who didn't value the part of it he had. Kemi had decided this, clearly, consistently, with the particular determination of a woman who had been patient for 6 years and was done being patient for anything that did not deserve it. She was promoted at work within a year. She redecorated her apartment in colors that had nothing to do with Tunde's tastes and everything to do with her own. She cut her hair. She took a solo trip to Zanzibar, sat on a white sand beach, and then, at a gallery opening in Lagos, she met a man named Emeka. He walked over to her the way certain people walk, without calculation, without performance, without the energy of someone running a strategy. He just walked over and started talking to her like a normal person, like someone who already knew how to be around her. She told her cousin afterward that it was the strangest thing. Her cousin asked strange how. Kemi said strange, like I had forgotten that was possible. Emeka was an architect from Enugu, quiet, solid, funny in the way of people who do not announce that they are funny. He was, by the assessment of everyone who met him, a good man. Femi met him twice, liked him immediately, hated that he liked him immediately, but liked him. Tunde drove to Kemi's area on a Saturday morning. He had no plan. This was very Tunde. He parked outside her building, sat in his car for 10 minutes arguing with himself, and then called her number. She answered. He said he needed to talk to her properly. Not the phone call he had given her when he was announcing his wedding, a real conversation. He owed her an apology, an actual one. There was a long silence. She said, "Give me 15 minutes. They sat outside the cafe on the next street. Plastic chairs, small cups of black coffee. Saturday morning, Lagos going about its business around them, entirely uninterested in their history. Kemi looked well. Tunde had no right to have an opinion about this. He registered it anyway. She told him to say what he came to say. He said it, all of it, without the voice, without the eyes, without any of the weapons he had spent years assembling and deploying on women who trusted him. Just truth. He told her he had been unfair, that he had kept her for 6 years and called it a relationship when it was really just fear wearing the costume of commitment. That he had been afraid to fully choose her, and she had been loyal enough to stay, and he had taken advantage of both those things. He told her the reason he gave the virgin requirement was not entirely a lie, but it was not the whole truth either. The whole truth was that he was afraid, and she was safe. And he had kept her in a space that was comfortable for him and unfair to her for 6 years. He told her he was sorry. Not the text message sorry, not the voice note sorry, the real kind. Kemi listened with her coffee cup in both hands and her eyes on the table. When he was done, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I know." He said he knew she knew. He had needed her to hear him say it. She nodded. She asked if he was okay. He said, not really, that he was figuring things out. She nodded again, wished him luck. Then she stood up and looked at him, not with anger, not with longing, not with any of the feelings that 6 years of loving someone tend to leave in a person, just with the clear, settled finality of a woman who has closed a chapter completely and knows exactly which page she is on now. She told him to take care of himself and walked back to her building. He sat at the plastic chair, watched her go. And then, above him, on the 3rd floor of her building, a window opened. A man leaned out in a grey morning t-shirt, warm, unhurried, completely at home in that window, in that building. He called down to Kemi, asked if she wanted breakfast. She said, "Yes, please. Eggs." He asked how she wanted them. She said, "However you are making yours." He smiled, pulled the window back in. She looked at the street for 1 more second, then went upstairs. Tunde sat with his cold coffee, looking at the building, looking at the window that had closed. He understood something now that he could not use. That is the specific pain of arriving too late to something. Not anger, not drama, just the quiet understanding that the right thing existed, and you held it, and you set it down, and someone else picked it up, and they are making eggs with it on a Saturday morning, while you sit outside with cold coffee and the full clear knowledge of everything you chose. He drank the coffee, left. Mama Tunde never said I told you so. She sent 47 messages in a church group chat and used emoji that would have confused a teenager. She did not need to say anything else. Some things say themselves. Lagos keeps going. The markets open at 5. The generators start at 6. The hawkers are on the streets before the sun is fully up. And somewhere on a bench in a park in Surulere, a man holds a baby who is pointing at a bird. The man looks where the baby points. That is enough. That is sometimes completely enough. This has been Virgin Wahala, a story about the things we think we want, the time we owe each other, and the grace of arriving eventually where we were always supposed to be. Dedicated to every woman who kept her dignity while someone else was keeping their options open, and to every man who figured it out. Eventually.